Abby and Kat were born in 1997 and became best friends when they were 6. Grew up together and started a band and bonded over music ever since. 20 years later, they are all grown up and spend their free time analyzing lyrics. Now here they are talking all about their Lord and Savior, Dr. Taylor Allison Swift. Taylor, if you're listening, we love you.
Hello and welcome to Folklore Podcast, where we dive into the lyrics and lore of our Lord and Savior, Dr. Taylor Allison Swift.
Absolutely, that's why we're here.
I'm Kat.
I'm Abby, and we hate you, James, from the Folklore Triangle.
This is not a safe space for James. Let's just be so upfront about that. Let's be so honest. This week and next week, we are covering the Folklore Love Triangle. And fuck you, James.
Here's the other thing is that my brother's named James, and I love him so much.
I was going to say, that's what was going to be my follow-up. I was trying to think if we had any sort of headcanon about James's last name in the Folklore Love Triangle.
Anyway, it's just super funny because every time I say I hate you, James, I'm talking about James from the Folklore Triangle. He sucks. He sucks so hard. I'm so mad at him.
Just up front, every time we say it, it's not an out-of-context dig at Abby's brother who doesn't listen to the podcast.
I'm just saying it
now.
So
just up front, in case this is the one time that James, parentheses, brother, tunes in.
It's like the episode title's just "Fuck You, James," and he's like, "What's this?" He clicks on it. I just need to clear the air. All right.
So this week I will be attempting to figure out like the plot and the story behind the Folklore Love Triangle, like the timing of it all.
And I'm going to talk about August.
And then next week we'll do Betty and Cardigan.
It's going to be a fun time. We're doing a two-parter.
It's
our first two-part episode. We had to do it for the month of August.
Two-part episode.
Yep, exactly that.
I was still stuck on my thought. I couldn't.
Last week, Kat had the mentee bee. This week, I have the mentee bee. Tears were shed earlier. It's rough.
Mercury is in retrograde now.
And this song also really gets to me. Like, I'm going to have a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings, and I'm just telling you that now.
Yeah, I wrote this out in my notes, so I'll just say it now. But I got Augusted last summer where I was seeing this girl, and we had been seeing each other for like a little over a month or so, and then she like kind of canceled and rescheduled a date, and I was like, she's gonna break up with me. Not that we were official anyways, but then she did, because she was like, oh, me and my ex are gonna work it out and get back together. And I was like, weird that you never even mentioned that you had an ex that you worked with, that you were like apparently working it out with on the remix. So there is a video of me that exists that I don't know if it'll make its way onto any social media or a Patreon. If it might go on our Patreon, but I don't know. It's me. I was like, oh, I got Augusted. Let me listen to August for the first time while I'm driving. This will be really funny. And it's just a video of me crying to August because I was driving, so I couldn't stop the video.
Oh my gosh, you have to laugh through the pain.
You have to laugh through the pain.
Oh my gosh. Okay. A couple of other updates. I definitely had one.
I was going to say, so sorry to all the Swifties in Vienna.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
It's so horrible and just like terrifying that people have so much hatred in them that they want to destroy like an event that's just so full of joy, and especially joy for like children and women.
Yeah.
It's just insane, and I think they definitely made the right call canceling the concerts, as much as it sucks. And it's been like really beautiful to see the Swifties in Vienna that are there, you know, visiting. Like the city of Vienna like did a bunch of promotions for people who were visiting where they could get free things, which is so like kind of the city. And like seeing the people gathered in the streets singing together, and like there's on Cornelia Street when they were singing Love Story, and like a couple got engaged during it on Cornelia Street with everybody singing Love Story to them. It was beautiful.
It really does break my heart, because I know that our Eras Tour experience, I personally felt so safe, and like everyone deserves to feel safe at the Eras Tour and everywhere. Everyone deserves to feel safe everywhere. But just to ruin an experience that brings people so much joy and so much like connection and safety, and to jeopardize that is heartbreaking, and it's really sad.
Yeah, and I hope the rest of the tour, you know, doesn't get canceled, but honestly I would completely understand it from Taylor's perspective if she canceled the rest of the tour.
It's really
I'm
scary.
Very much hoping that doesn't happen and that the rest can go on. But it's so terrible, and our hearts go out to everybody who had tickets to the concert or just is worried about future concerts. It's a totally rational fear to have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's just really fucked up that a couple of crazy people can ruin so many people's days.
Yeah. So our hearts are with you, with the Swiftie community, with Taylor, who had to make a really hard decision.
Yeah.
And I'm just sending so much love.
Yeah. And I feel like some people are wondering like why Taylor hasn't said anything yet. And I just don't know that her releasing a statement at this time would do any good. I feel like she's just on damage control and trying to not escalate anybody else. Because if she reacts, other people who have bad intentions could take that as a trigger of like, oh, well, this gets her attention.
Well, this is a really heavy thing. I mean, she has performed through so much.
Yeah.
And she has never canceled. And like, so this is a big deal. This was a big decision. And I'm sure she's feeling so many things right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that. Whether she has a statement or not, it's just really hard. This is a really hard thing. So,
yeah.
Now that we've dug into...
Now that we're sad, a totally natural transition. The Folklore love triangle background. So, obviously the Folklore love triangle is comprised of 3 interrelated songs off of the 2020 album Folklore by Taylor Ellison Swift. The 3 songs are Cardigan, August, and Betty in tracklist order there. And Taylor herself called this the teenage love triangle on the album. And of those 3 songs, the 3 characters involved are Betty, who's like girl A, James, who's the worst, and then Augustine or Augusta. Taylor said both in the Long Pond studio session, like bits in between the performances when she's talking before August. And she said it could go either way, but then she exclusively called her Augustine for the rest of the clip. So I also call her Augustine throughout this episode. And Betty and James are like the classic meant to be together couple that were together and then broke up. And then James had a thing with Augustine, and then they ended things, and then James and Betty get back together. It's a whole thing. Like that's the high level overview. Very teenage. And I just to reiterate that James is the worst. I already had this note written down. James is the asshole here, to be clear, but he's also a 17-year-old boy, and he did apologize for his actions, so that's more than most men do, but low bar. But at least he didn't trip on it.
Yeah, when we talk about the song Betty, I'll get more into this. Like, I really want to love the song Betty. I just hate James so much.
Betty's a bop if you just don't think about how much James sucks.
Exactly.
And Taylor herself said in the same Long Pond studio session thing that James and Betty do end up together. Mm-hmm. So that's canon, unfortunately.
It's canon, but yeah, I have thoughts about that too. Should we talk about that now?
Maybe I don't know. I feel like at the end of the plot, maybe, because these are my plot notes.
Got it. All right.
I went through it.
I will sit back.
Okay, so our story starts. Betty and James are dating. I think of them as being juniors in high school, so it's like they're like 16, 17 kind of age range. They're dating, and Taylor says he goes back to Betty when she was talking before August in the Long Pond studio session. So that to me says that they were together their junior year and not like, because I always thought they were about to date, but then I was rewatching it to like get some background. And I was like, oh, she said they get back together, which means they were together. So that's just tea. And then there's some sort of dance at a gym. I assume it's some sort of like end of the school year dance, like a prom. You know, juniors go to prom. And then James goes, even though he doesn't want to go because he doesn't like crowds, he doesn't like dances, he's not like other boys, he's worse. And then Betty dances with him, who was never named or brought up ever again. So it's giving James just trying to scapegoat his way out of the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
And then James and Betty break up, and that was like, in Betty, he kind of implies that was the beginning of the end, but that's like they didn't break up immediately afterwards, but like maybe they got in a fight at that dance, and then it ended up with them breaking up for the summer. And this also connects in Cardigan to Peter losing Wendy. Like, Peter couldn't grow up, and that's why he loses Wendy. So James couldn't get his shit together, so he breaks up with Betty. And then Augustine has the misfortune of finding James walking on cobblestones, and she picks him up and gives him a ride because he's broke, no car, just a skateboard, bitch ass, hates dancing.
Literally
Hate the way that you walk. This is the more that I think about the folklore love triangle, the more I'm just like, I'm trying to be sympathetic towards James, but
I can't.
It's just not looking good for him.
And it has nothing to do with him being a dude. It's that he literally sucks. He sucks. He sucks.
He does suck. But it's like, it's also so 17-year-old.
Because
you make such stupid, when you're young, they assume you know nothing.
Yeah.
And you know what? For me, they were right. Because you know what I was when I was 17? Fucking crazy. I was fucking insane. I was so delusional. I wasn't prepared. I didn't even know what I was going to say till I said it. No, I thought I still was attracted to men. I thought I was going to be a musician. I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings, and I did not process any of them properly. So that's, but you know what I didn't do? Cheat on somebody or like do whatever this is. So then that summer, James and Augustine have a fling. Augustine doesn't know that it's a summer fling. James is still in love with Betty the entire time, which is so deeply unfair to Augustine because never have I ever before. She loses her virginity to James.
Yeah.
It's kind of implied that James and Betty might have already been sleeping together, which is like even more fucked up. Just because when you're 17, having sex is like a very big thing. It still can be big when you're an adult, but like when you're a kid, it seems a lot bigger than it might later. So that Augustine and James have the summer together, they're having sex, they're getting drunk, they're going to the beach, they're meeting behind the mall for whatever activities are going on there. And when they don't have plans, Augustine is just waiting for him to call her because she's so into him and thinks that like they're, she really likes him. And I also made a note of the fact that Augustine probably doesn't go to the same school as James and Betty because in August says like, will you call when you're back at school, implying that she's not going back to the same school. So she might not have even known that James had been dating somebody, just that he was single. So even more, we're Augustine apologists.
Absolutely.
Well, it's not even apologists. She didn't do anything wrong. We were just on her side.
Absolutely. I struggle to see how Augustine could be seen as a villain.
Misogyny.
Fair enough.
I also feel anyways, I'll get into that later. And then the whole summer, Betty is like fucking going through it. Because Cardigan is like her reflecting back 20 to 30 years ago. Taylor also mentions that in the Long Pond studio session. So it's like all of the things that Betty talks in Cardigan about experiencing, she's experiencing during this breakup. Because Inez tells her that James is seeing somebody else. And Betty feels like things are falling apart. She really thought James liked her. Thought they were she was like, oh, we're just going to get back together. Like, we'll break up, get back together. I feel like that's pretty common in a lot of like high school age relationships is you break up, you get back together, you break up, you get back together. How was she supposed to know that this one was different and that he was going to go date somebody else on the break? They were on a break. I haven't watched Friends. I just know that's a thing.
I have watched Friends and it is a thing.
Confirmed.
They are like full-blown adults though.
Yeah.
It's actually a very fascinating storyline, but that's a different podcast.
There's a bunch of Friends podcasts. Go find one. But only after this episode.
Yeah, just approach me somewhere and ask me about it. I'll talk to you.
Just gonna get a t-shirt that just says "Ask me if they were on a break."
It's a great conversation start. Anyways.
Continue. So then the song August is written after the summer is over, and Augustine has realized like, you were never mine. James never really belonged to her the way that she thought he did. But she's like, that song is still very fond and very much like, even though Augustine is probably heartbroken at the end of things, she still looks back on it as an overall positive experience, which I just think is really interesting. And even more why Augustine is such a slay.
She is a slay. Queen Augustine.
And just like the fact that James is just like slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long. Really fucked up thing to say, James. Nobody wants to hear that on either side.
Nobody.
If I'm Augustine, I'm killing you. If I'm Betty, also killing you. It's
Either
murder
way,
no matter
you
what.
are dead. No body, no crime.
Like this, I would understand no body, no crime in this situation. No, I wouldn't. Don't do murder.
Don't murder.
Diabolical move, though, James.
Yeah.
And then at some point in the summer, James skateboards past Betty's house. And I like to think that this is like the moment that he's just like, oh man, I've been trying to act like I don't still want Betty, but I still want Betty. And then he realized he have to end things with Augustine. Because he's the worst. So then James and Augustine break up. School starts again. Betty and James get assigned the same homeroom. Betty says, absolutely the fuck not. And she transfers out. And James goes, oh no. This might be harder than I thought to get her back.
Now I have to try.
Exactly. Betty plans a party. James isn't invited. But then he starts to fantasize about what if I show up and like what would happen if I show up and like try to win you back at this. Which like, why not have the conversation when she doesn't have like all of her friends over? You know what I mean? But then
in front of all your stupid friends.
I'll get there.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
All right.
Don't you worry. I wrote James levels up as a person, gains the ability to regret his actions and admit that the way he treated Betty was super fucked up and he shouldn't have done that. So then he makes his plan to show up at Betty's party to win her back, and he spends weeks thinking about like what he's going to say, questioning what's going to happen. I guess he just wants it to be like a big romantic gesture moment of like, I'm here, all your friends are here, and I'm declaring that I want you, and if you say no, it's gonna be really weird and embarrassing. It's kind of giving like those people that propose in public.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like the girl is just like, yeah, actually I wanted to say no, but there was like a bunch of people around.
Yeah, it's giving like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about champagne problems now.
Yeah.
Except she said no.
Yeah.
As Betty should have also said no, but it's fine.
Agreed.
Should have said no.
There's a fan short film that I forgot to write this down, but there's a fan short film about Betty, and at spoiler, at the end, Betty and Augustine just slam the door in his face. It's so good.
That's what we need. That's the ending we need.
That's what we need. And actually that girl, I'm going to look up her name for next week's episode, but she's about to make an August video for this summer.
Oh, nice.
So FYI,
it's
keep
really
an eye out.
Interesting to me that Taylor decided in her head that Betty and James end up together. That is so interesting to me.
It really, yeah.
Yeah.
So then James shows up at Betty's party. Maybe he apologizes. It's not canon, but I like to think he said, I messed up. Asked Betty to take him back, calls her stupid, asked to kiss her on her porch, which implies that he knocked on the door and Betty did not let him in the house, which was kind of slay of her. But
he walked up to the door. He said, hey.
He said, hey,
I was enchanted to cheat you.
Do you say I was enchanted to cheat you?
Yeah.
Incredible. Iconic.
Thank you.
So he just rolls up. He says, I was enchanted to cheat you. My B, you want to make out? Your friends suck. And Betty's just like, okay,
sounds good.
We've all been 17, like I said.
Yeah.
Honestly, a romantic gesture like this would have gotten me when I was 17.
If the guy showed up to my party, I'd be like, guys, but he knows where I live.
He knew when the party was and he showed up.
The thing is, like, being 17.
We know for Taylor that showing up at parties is a big thing.
True.
So
I don't want to like anyone, if you happen to be 17 and listening to this, I don't want you to take this as us being like, you're dumb. Cause like, you're not, but
you're not, you're very intelligent and you've just got a lot going on. And like, it's being 17 is hard because like, I love the movie Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld in it because I feel like that really captures like how chaotic it is. Cause you're kind of an adult, but you're not, cause you still have all these limitations on you and you're full of hormones and you're like experiencing like adult emotions for the first time, like falling in love and like anxiety and like thinking about your future and like actually like thoughts about the future that aren't just like, I want to be president when I grow up. It's like, oh no, I have to pick a college and like choose the direction of my life. It's a lot of stress and it's a lot of like,
oh, it's so much.
But there's just, I also think when you're 17, like the way that you feel things when you're 17, you are never going to feel things the same way that you do. And it's like, so there's a reason why there's so many songs about being 17 because it's like such a magical age.
Yeah. And so many books and so many pieces of media. I mean, that's something, it's like something so intense that we've all experienced. And like, it is so difficult. Anyone 17, my heart goes out to y'all. That is a hard,
but also
hard time.
live it up.
Also live it up. And also if, you know, you make choices and that's That's your
do it for the
journey.
plot, you know?
That's your journey. Do it for the plot.
Someday it'll be a really good story. And then James and Betty get back together. And then Cardigan is written as a retrospective about just James and Betty's relationship at this time, like 20 to 30 years later. And I think it's kind of interesting how in Cardigan she sort of like conflates the events of the summer and the before and after kind of together, because, you know, there's like these moments of them in New York City or like going out and getting drunk at bars. And it's like, okay, you can't do that till you're 21 unless you have a fake ID. But like, she doesn't mention a fake ID. So it's probably like she's talking about all these different times that James has hurt her and healed her. And I kind of have a theory that like James and Betty get back together and then go to college and then break up again and then get back together in the future. And that's why at the end of Cardigan, it's like, you'd come back to me, you'd come back to me, you'd come back, is because there's like multiple times they broke up. Sorry to steal that. Cause
I got chills.
But like, I think they had this tumultuous back together, broken up again. And it's like interesting because Betty ends on such a like hopeful, happy note. And the next time we hear part of the story is Cardigan is just like, well, you fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I wrote. Oh, okay. The reason I thought they broke up in college was because of long distance, the like stepping on the last train moment.
Oh.
I thought I had something about the leaving like a father line, but it's fine. I'll just interject next week
when I talk about it. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And also like Augustine, I think it's really interesting that she's not really mentioned at all in Cardigan. Like when Betty's telling the story about her and James, the only like mention of the infidelity is like chase two girls, lose the one. Mm-hmm. Augustine isn't really mentioned in Cardigan, which leads me to believe that Betty, again, just blames James for their breakup and not the other woman at all.
Good.
As she should.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple things where people try to say that like all of Folklore actually like is centered around the Folklore love triangle characters, and like all the other songs are related to them in one way or another. So I went through the track list and was like, here's how I think they could potentially be related to one another. I think the one could be Augustine talking to James when they run into each other in the future, which is kind of backed up by chase two girls, lose the one in Cardigan. The Last Great American Dynasty, the love triangle could take place in that town. They could somehow be related to Rebecca Harkness, or just like that's, you know, background for their setting. Mm-hmm. Exile could be Betty and James' relationship problems, breaking up, whichever time they broke up. My Tears Ricochet, Taylor said, also in the Long Pond studio. I keep wanting to say like Long Pond song, and I know that's wrong, but that's why I keep pausing between pond and studio every time, is because my brain just has a really fucking stupid thought that I cannot train out of it.
Okay, got it.
But Taylor talked about how My Tears Ricochet, like when she was talking about that song, how it reminds her of people who are getting divorced and they know how to like hurt each other. And in Cardigan, Betty says leaving like a father, kind of implying that her father left and her parents are divorced. So this could be like her talking about her parents' relationship, or just like a song about their relationship. Mirror Ball, it could be from Betty or Augustine's point of view.
Or mine.
Or yours, or it could be about anybody, because everybody feels that way.
Because we're all a mirror ball.
We're all a mirror ball. I feel like I said that wrong, and I'm just going to move on from it. 7 could be James talking to Betty. Your dad's always mad if her parents are going through a divorce and her father left. That's, you know, or it could be anybody talking to Betty if Betty is the one with the mad dad. Why did I shorten this? Oh, this is me trying. I was like, what is Timpt?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles. That's what it is.
Teenage Intern Mutant Turtles. They're in little ties. I mean, what else could TIMT stand for, you know?
Absolutely nothing.
Definitely not. This is me trying. But that could be anybody's point of view. We don't know. Maybe James is an alcoholic. Who knows?
Maybe Michelangelo is.
Perhaps Raphael. I don't know.
I don't remember the other two.
We can't all be Michelangelo. Sorry. Okay. Illicit Affairs is very much like August but sadder, so it could just be August reflecting on it as an adult and thinking about how fucked up that was.
Well, when you originally said let's do the Folklore Triangle songs, I was like, isn't Illicit Affairs part of it? Because to me, it always has been.
Yeah. But it technically isn't, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's like the grown-up version of August.
Yeah.
Invisible String could be about Betty and James. Mad Woman, I mean, we know James kind of got that cheater energy in him. So it could be, a good wife always knows.
Yeah.
She could be mad, could be skating like me, but no one likes a mad woman. Epiphany, I feel like it could be about any of them, but also I feel like that's a weird one to like try to put into this box because it's about Taylor's grandpa and like the COVID-19 pandemic. Peace could be Betty's point of view. Same with Hoax. The Lakes, it could be about Betty and James, who's to say, but I also feel like it could be like Augustine and James, like Augustine saying to James, like, let's run away. So I don't think this theory really works, but I do think some of the songs it works for, like Illicit Affairs and The One and maybe 7 could work, but yeah, I don't think it's a super strong case for every song on the album relating back, because some people think like every single song. I'm like, I don't know about every song.
Yeah, it's definitely, to me, it feels like Taylor sharing some of her own stories as well as sharing stories of other people she knows, as well as making up stories, and just like, which is very representative of like being in the pandemic when this album came out and just being like, I don't know where to put my energy other than thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking thoughts.
So many thoughts.
Folklore is like such an amazing album.
So good.
And the fact that she has songs from different characters' point of views in it, I mean, more albums need to do that because it's genius and it's so cool.
I love seeing it.
Ugh.
And that's the lore of the Folklore Triangle.
Wow. I still hate you, James. From the Folklore Triangle, not my brother.
I like that you keep clarifying. He's not listening.
I know, but if you clip it, at any point,
I'm just going to do all the I hate you, James, the entire episode. And then I'm going to somehow contact your brother, who I've talked to twice in our 21-year friendship.
Oh, man. You know, my ex sent me one of our Instagram reels.
Oh, yeah, I did know this. You told me.
Yeah, it was like, hey, it finally happened.
I'm just like, I feel like I have, at least one of my exes has to have seen a clip. Because I did have like a friend of a friend sent, I had like a TikTok go viral like a couple years ago that was about like ADHD thing. And a friend of a friend sent it to one of my friends who was just like, that's Kat. You know, Kat.
That's so fun.
So like, I feel like that has to have happened because I have exes who are Swifties.
Yeah.
So if you see this, have a good day or don't, depending on how the breakup went.
The other thing, because now we're at our little mid-break here, we got our first hate comment.
Oh man, we did.
And I just want to take a moment to talk about this. We mentioned it on the Patreon, but we got this hate comment, and Kat and I's first reaction, we got our first hate comment to a text to Kat, and we both just celebrated that.
Because, people don't hate you until you do something worth caring about.
Exactly. And like, it just made us so proud of ourselves because we said like,
Also really confusing comment because they're like, this is the most annoying podcast ever. I'm like, so you're a listener?
Yeah, yeah, they hate listen, I guess. Which
I'm like, make sure it's 60 seconds so we get that play on Spotify. Which
know,
also we hit 15,000 listens
15,000
across all of our episodes, which is really exciting. Thank you guys for listening.
Oh my gosh.
That's really weird. And it's a big number that I try not to think about.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I love being on this journey with you. I love how we can literally see how much we've grown as people through these experiences.
I was listening to our first episode earlier and I was just like, wow, the vibe isn't that different, but like it's interesting to listen to.
It is interesting. And I think it's really cool that we have all of this just like captured. That's awesome.
It's really fun. Like I went to Lollapalooza last week, which also I haven't even talked about that yet. I was at the record-breaking crowd for Chapel Roan. Did not know how big it was when I was in it, which was good.
Yeah.
Because if I had realized how far back it went, I probably would have had a panic attack.
Terrifying.
Yeah, because there was so many people there. But like when I got to Chicago, my flight got delayed. I had so many fucking flight issues.
It was
Southwest, I hate you. I'm going to be so real. Fuck you, Southwest. Because my flight on the way out got delayed for no reason. And then I got there really late. And then I was like, had to take a long taxi from the airport to my cousin's apartment. And then I was like, I'm just feeling really anxious. And I was like, I'm just going to listen to our Joe episode because I was like, end of beginning. I listened at the beginning and then I was like, I need to feel more things about this. Then I listened to the Joe episode and it like really calmed me down. Like just me listening to me and Abby talking. It's only like half narcissistic.
I think it's nice to appreciate our own work.
Yeah. It's also like nice because it's just like, oh, this is just like me and my best friend hanging out and it's on record. It's recorded. That's the right way to say that.
It's pressed on vinyl. Imagine.
Just like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Let me do this special pressed vinyl of myself and my best friend talking about Joe Keery. But yeah, Lollapalooza was so awesome. I'll probably go again next year. I almost posted on our story being like, guys, I'm at Lollapalooza if anybody else is here. But then I was like, A, I don't know what the situation is with finding service, and B, the idea of having to like coordinate with somebody else to like say hi would have been too much because
I bet it was very overwhelming and overstimulating.
Yeah. It was also it was like 90% humidity.
Yeah.
On the day Chapel Roan performed, I saw her, Kesha, and Hozier, and like great sets. Everybody's so good. But like it was supposed to thunderstorm all day. Luckily it didn't start thunderstorming until like after the set finished, but it was like Hozier was playing. Behind him, it was like city skyline. One of the buildings had lit up their windows to say "Stay safe, Lala," which was so cute, and they had little rainbows. But it was that Hozier stage, thunder and lightning storm in the distance. Like you could see, and then it started kind of raining, but it felt so good because it was so hot and it had been like 90% humidity all day.
Yeah,
and like there's a couple concerts where it's like the rain is the vibe. Hozier, Hozier even thanked the sky for the rain, like during his set, which is so Hozier of him.
It is the most Hozier thing I've ever heard in my life.
It was pouring, but
wow,
would recommend Lala, but also,
I might
don't
go
know.
Next year. We'll see. We'll see.
It was a little chaotic. Like, oh my god, the worst. So during Chapel Roan set, sorry, this is my last thing before we go into yours.
All good.
They're like during festivals, you know, when you have to like get an EMT to get somebody out if they're like, you know, passed out or whatever, one of the things you can do is like make an X with your arms and raise it over your head. So people were doing that at the end of one of the songs and they're like trying to signal EMTs and stuff. And then Chapel starts playing Hot to Go.
Oh no.
And I turned to my cousin and I go, oh, this is bad. This is the song where everybody puts their arms in the air.
Oh no.
And so they had to carry the person out and they were like fully unconscious, passed out.
Whoa.
Puked on themselves.
That's really
So I don't know if they had a
scary.
seizure or something, but luckily the crowd was really good about letting people out. And there's like free water stations everywhere. It's kind of a shit show trying to get to them, but there's also, you could buy like the canned water and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't feel ever like I was going to pass out because I prepared adequately. But if you didn't, I could see very easily people passing out because it was hot. People are pressed person to person like the whole time, especially Chapel's set. And after Chapel's set, shit show, because it was like Chapel and Kesha's stages were like facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to watch Kesha's set the entire time, people were leaving from Chapel's for Kesha's entire like hour set.
Wow.
So it was just like after Kesha's set, when we finally left the crowd, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, nobody's touching me.
Yeah, I bet.
So
I would have hated that experience.
You would have
hated that experience.
Yeah, you would not have been able to stay for Kesha, I don't think, because it was not a joyride.
Yeah,
but she was great.
I bet. Ugh. I'm glad that it had its highs and lows, but I'm glad that you were able to go because one of us.
And then I tried to come home. My flight got canceled, and then I had to rebook on a flight that was like 3 times as expensive because I booked it day of, and I got 2 hours of sleep. My first flight also got canceled when I was 2 minutes from the airport in my Uber that cost $70.
It was rough.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got home.
I'm also glad I got home. I made it.
And now we get to not travel for a bit.
Yes, well, I am not going anywhere. If you want to hang out and you don't live in Rochester, get your ass up here. I'm not going.
So yeah. August slipped away. I hated everything about what I just did.
On the calendar. We've got August on the August calendar.
That's very
It's not just an
cute.
August calendar, it's the whole year.
Well, It's August right now.
That's true. That is factually correct.
August is the 8th track on Taylor's 8th album, Folklore. Also, August is the 8th month, and there are 8 deluxe versions of Folklore. Woo!
That's a lot of 8s.
That's pretty neat.
What's the 888 angel number mean?
I don't know. I'm the kind of person that does tarot and doesn't know about the angel numbers.
That's fair. I always am like, what does this mean? And then I don't know. Abundance and prosperity. Okay, Taylor, slay.
Okay, slay.
Slate.
Slayler. So this song was released July 24th, 2020, 1 week before August. I will be annoying about August, at least in these first 2 notes.
She had to have everybody prepare before August started.
That's true. You already covered some of this front matter.
Sorry.
The song is part of the Folklore Love Triangle. Boo, James, we hate you. James, the guy from the Folklore Love Triangle, not my brother.
And I say, fuck you, James, your brother, because I just feel like at this point I gotta. Don't. It's the oppositional tendencies. New op just dropped. Abby's very nice older brother.
Oh, man. All right.
I haven't had an enemy in a while. I'm kind of getting bored.
James would brawl. He's very nice, but he would brawl if necessary. All right. So, Taylor said that, okay, you already said the Augustine thing. But also, Taylor had the lyric "Meet Me Behind the Mall" in her phone for years before she wrote this song and finally was able to use it. This is a swift enough production. Jack produced the instrumental first and sent it to Taylor, who wrote the lyrics on the spot. She said it was an intuitive thing. Probably because I feel like every former teenage girl understands the song on a spiritual level.
To live for the hope of it all is one of her most perfect lyrics.
I agree. I that one hits so hard. There are so many parts of the song that hit me like a
freight train heavy on the 8.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. All right. Anyways.
Jack Antonoff said this is one of his favorite songs that they've done together along with My Tears Ricochet. That was as of Folklore. It's possible that has changed.
True.
A few albums have come out since then.
3.
Yeah. Not 8.
Not 8.
At the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards in 2021, she performed this as part of a medley with Cardigan and Willow with Jack and Aaron, and it was the first time the 3 of them performed together.
And it was also the first appearance of the Folklore cabin.
Oh, fun. Also, this is performed at Eras Tour for the Folklore set in these beautiful flowy dresses.
Ugh.
We love the August dresses.
And I love the little run that she does right before the bridge, and she does like a little run, and then she throws her sleeves.
Oh, amazing, incredible show stopping. I feel like I should know this, but yet I don't. Did she cut it because she combined the 2? Okay, good.
All of the Folklore Love Triangle songs survived the cut.
I was thinking that because at least when we saw it, Betty, Cardigan, and August were all performed during the Folklore set, which I think is really cool.
Yes, they all made it.
Okay.
Cardigan and Betty are both shortened, but they're still on the set list.
Got it.
Which I think they might have also been shortened when we saw her too.
It's possible. That was all a whirlwind. I don't remember. This song debuted at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is Kat's favorite number.
It is.
During the chart week of August 8th. Taylor's a mastermind for real.
She's so that makes sense though, because of course everybody's like, oh, it's August now, I'm gonna stream August a lot.
It makes sense because every August I listen to the song a lot because that as is the prophecy.
It's August and August is a Fever by Ella Jane are my 2 go-tos on every August playlist.
Exactly. So Taylor talked a bit in the Long Pond studio session about how this song deconstructs the concept of the other woman and sort of de-villainizes Augustine. And I really like this quote where she said, August was obviously about the girl that James had this summer with. She seems like she's a bad girl, but really she's not. She's a sensitive person who really fell for him, and she was trying to seem cool and seem like she didn't care because that's what girls have to do. She was trying to let him think that she didn't care, but she really did, and she thought they had something real, and then he goes back to Betty. So the idea that there's some bad villain girl in any type of situation who takes your man is actually a total myth because that's not usually the case at all. Everybody has feelings, everybody wants to be seen and loved, and all Augustine wanted was love.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that any better than Taylor did, which is why I said the whole quote.
Yeah, and it's very much like the cool girl idea from like Gone Girl or like across all media, where it's like the only girl that matters is the one who acts like she doesn't care about things that girls care about.
The song Cool Girl by Dodie is very applicable here, and everyone go stream it because it's amazing. A very cinematic version of this song was used in the season 2 trailer of The Summer I Turned Pretty.
And why did they not release it on streaming every day?
Every day I wake up and I'm mad about it.
The meme's back.
We hadn't said it in like a long string of episodes. It's so good. This remix is so good.
And there's a video that I made last summer when I was on a road trip with our friend Brienne of me running on the beach with that version of August in the background.
Yeah.
And I went back to find it and I was like, oh my God, the sound got removed. And then I realized that I saved the video with the sound last year.
Yay!
Because I guess I just predicted that I would need it.
I think I also saved mine because I also made a video of me using that TikTok sound in Sardinia, which is part of what I'll talk about in my personal connections, which is next. So basically, this song, in terms of personal connections, I did live it, except it was July.
Mine was also in a July.
Really? We're burning July for the girls.
Anyways.
And so I was 17 and I had a little sneaky summer romance moment. I wouldn't say it was as dramatic as this because I wasn't like in love or anything, but it was a lot of similar feelings and a lot of waiting around because I wanted him to call. And that's a part that like really sticks with me, that I really resonate with in the song. Like the idea of just waiting around, hoping that, like, and then that's a bad feeling. Bad feeling.
It's the waiting is bad, but then when they call, it's so good that you like want to keep waiting because you're living for the hope of it all.
Exactly. So the other personal connection that is far happier, basically last year in August, I went to Italy. It was actually 1 year ago today, as of when this episode comes out, I'm pretty sure. And so I got to spend a week in Sardinia with my friend who I talk about, Sylvia. She's been on the podcast, and like we listen to this song a lot because she's also a Swiftie. And I remember being on the beach. It was one of my last days, and I was like, I have to film this TikTok.
Gotta TikTok
I have to TikTok it. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna real sneaky film you. And then I almost died.
Wait, what?
So first of all, I'm running in, and 2 people are throwing a football in my flight path. So I almost got hit in the head with a football. So we had this whole joke of like, to live for the hope of it all. Like getting hit
Visual
in the face.
bit. Having hit herself in the face.
I hit myself in the face. And then the other thing was I finally get in the water and she's like, got the shot. And she puts her phone away and she gets in the water with me. And then we swim. We're out. It's so beautiful, guys. This beach is beautiful. The water's beautiful. And then someone on a surfboard almost decapitates me.
Motherfucker.
I was like, I know that that's like kind of a traumatic story, but I'm just in the water and I'm like, I wonder if this person's going to turn their surfboard. And they just kept getting closer. And I was like, yeah, I don't think they are.
Jesus.
Trying to swim out of the way. I didn't die. I didn't get harmed.
On the bright side, Abby is not Ghost Abby.
But
She has been fully living for all episodes of the podcast so far.
all of them so far.
And in the future, we will not be Tuesday at Bernie's or whatever.
Tuesday.
Wait, what is it?
It's weekend at Bernie.
I don't know why I had Tuesday in the brain.
Just a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday when I caught your
Tuesday,
dead eye.
isn't it?
All right. So anyway.
So that's
Okay, so I was fine, and I really appreciate the fact that this song used to be kind of painful to listen to, and now I have these memories of being in Sardinia with my friend and on the beach, and it's great. Okay, now we get into the lyrics. So it starts with, we always say that Taylor really opens up the setting in as few words as possible, and this is a masterclass in that. She says, salt air and the rust on your door. So in that one line, we get these beachy summer vibes. We get the taste and smell of salt in the air. We get the rust, the color of rust, the feel of rust on the door, and the sound of the song itself. So literally every single sense is describing it.
incredible.
So cool. I never needed anything more. Just like when you're 17 and you really like someone and you're like, nothing else, literally nothing else matters. I just need to see you again.
And also in Cardigan, the kissing cars in downtown bars is all I needed.
Yeah.
Once again, James is the villain.
I was going to say it again. I won't. I don't want the bit to get stale.
James derogatory.
But not my brother. All right. So I also wrote the note, all you need is love. Love is all you need, because I'm a Beatles girly. Whispers of Are You Sure? Never have I ever before. Kat touched a bit before about how like this is referring to having sex for the first time, which when you're a teenager, if you were to be in the situation, could be a very emotional thing, like this very huge thing, which is why it's being referenced in this song. Also, Never Have I Ever is a game that like, I guess adults play it too, but when you go to parties, like Never Have I Ever is pretty common. But since she's saying it's whispered, like that just feels like more of a one-on-one, they're talking to each other sort of situation. I'm also interested in who's saying which statement. Like, is Augustine saying both? Are you sure? Never have ever before.
I think it's like James saying, "Are you sure?"
Okay.
And her, I thought it was, yeah, "Are you sure?" And then her saying, "Never have I ever before."
Well, I was thinking that like, I think this is my discussion question, but I was thinking about how does Augustine know about Betty? Because she could say like, "Are you sure you want me?"
I don't think she knew about Betty.
Okay.
That's, yeah, because like the whole thing of like, will you call when you're back at school? To me, like they go to different schools. And like, if you don't, if she just met him and like gave him a ride because she thought he was cute and like they started a summer fling, and if he doesn't bring up Betty and like, when you break up with somebody, you usually take it off all your social medias and stuff, unless she's like doing some sort of deep dive FBI style into his life, like she wouldn't know about Betty. And even if she found out that they had dated, like how would she know the level that they dated?
That's true. I think it's just that in my head, I always thought this was a cheating situation because of illicit affairs later in the album. So I didn't know all the lore of the love triangle. I just knew that it kind of was there. And so when I heard this song, I thought that this was an Other Woman where she knowingly was, but she loved him so much. And it's teenager. And when you're a teenager, like everyone's imperfect, right? But those type of situations happen often. You see it on TV shows a lot. That's for sure. So much cheating in like Glee, for example.
Yeah, that's just because they're like, how do we add emotional intensity? They cheated on each other.
Yeah. Also, the two statements are kind of out of order to me. Like, shouldn't it be never have I ever before and then are you sure? Not that it really matters.
I think of it as like, because the song is like a retrospective, it's like different like snippets of like how you don't remember things chronologically. Like
That's
she's
true.
setting the scene for this story of like, this is what it felt like and this is what it smelled like and tasted like, and it was "Are you sure?" and I hadn't before and blah blah.
Well, it's definitely, I mean, this next line, "But I can see us lost in the memory." This whole thing is her reflecting back on this memory, so it would come scattered. And towards the end of the song, certain memories are still cycling through her head. So I think you're right in that, where things will just be out of order because it's like
We're
when
imperfect.
When you have a daydream or I daydream a lot. And it's like you move forward in the dialogue and then you go, no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to run that back.
So common.
And
I
you
do it
rewind
constantly.
to do it again. That's what this reminds me of. I also said for I Can See Us Lost in the Memory, we've got I Can See You. We've got Now I See from I Knew You Were Trouble. So she's saying that she can see in her memory that the two of them were swept up in this affair because they're only 17. They don't know anything. That was honestly before I realized that this wasn't an affair. I truly thought that this was cheating the whole time.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I could be wrong about things, but I thought that they broke up and then had this summer fling.
Well, then why would Betty, other than James being the worst, why would Betty be so mad if they had broken up? I mean, you're a teenager. You're allowed to be mad.
Yeah, I think it was more that Betty thought they were going to get back together.
Okay. See, I thought the big...
Because, like, also if I'm Betty and, like, we break up and then you immediately have, like, a rebound summer fling with some girl that you're at the beach with and you're hooking up with and you're meeting behind the mall and, like, I have to hear about all of that, that's so embarrassing for me.
That's true. I really shouldn't say why is she upset. She has every reason to be upset.
Yeah.
But I think in my head when I heard Betty, I was like, oh, he cheated on her. That's how that's the association I've always had. So, my notes might say that a few times. We'll see.
I think it's a valid interpretation.
Yeah.
I mean, I said the plot, but I also said the plot from my interpretation of it. There's not, Taylor has only confirmed a couple of things.
It's also art, so
yeah,
it can be whatever. August slipped away into a moment in time, just showing how, like, it belongs only in this month, in this memory. Because it was never mine. And the it in question could be the month of August. It could be the summer thing itself. The memory itself isn't hers anymore because it was never what she thought it was. And also the concept of mine is huge in Taylor's discography with the song Mine and with all the other various times that she's talked about it. And I can see us twisted in bed sheets. Spicy. Also, the line in Betty, slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long.
Diabolical.
It pains me. It pains me.
James is a little bitch. Not brother.
August sipped away like a bottle of wine.
Such a good fucking line. Oh my God.
It's really good. And also this chorus, like melodically, this chorus is just like, I can see us lost in. It's so fun.
We're going to be blasting this on repeat on the way home.
Dude, this song is a 10 out of 10 for me. It always has been, always will be. But I did think about From Slut, Got Love Drunk went straight to my head. Just the concept of love, feeling like you're getting drunk and then sipping away at a bottle of wine. And it just, again, like just paints a picture, and it's so vivid.
Yeah.
Because you were never mine. So we went from it to you. And so it's just that realization, like, she thought she had something that she didn't. She never had it. Second verse. You're back beneath the sun, wishing I could write my name on it.
So good.
It's so visual. And like, I have trouble visualizing things. I think Taylor's lyrics have a way of like putting me into the space so quickly that other artists don't have.
Because I think that she like just highlights these details that are actually how you remember things.
Yeah.
Because like if you think back on something, it's like the things that stand out to you is not the entirety of a scene. It'll be like, oh, I remember how hot the sun was, and I remember like wishing that I could write my name on his back.
Yeah.
Like, what if he's written mine on my upper thigh? Only in my mind.
Exactly. And I'm also thinking like I picture that, you know? I listen to this song and I picture these things as if it's my memory, but it was never mine sort of situation. Like it feels like I'm experiencing this with Augustine.
Yeah. Oh, that hurts. That it was never mine because, I
know.
Abby.
I'm sorry. But on a funnier note, wouldn't it be funny though if she wrote her name in sunscreen?
I was thinking that too.
So that it just said Augustine on his back. He's just like,
he's like, Betty, take me back. and then it's like back. And the back as the other woman. Anyways,
gosh, I just think that's
the back
a really
of it all.
to live for the back of it all. I
Me
would live for
in
that.
the back of them all, you know.
Whoa. Yeah.
Baby's got back. Okay. That's it. That's my last thought. I'll be having no more thoughts now.
No more ever again.
I would love that. Just turn my fucking brain off.
Please. All right. Will you call when you're back at school? I remember thinking I had you. So like this is where she assumed that they were going to keep in touch and they were going to keep dating. Like she thought, yeah, we can totally make it work when you go back to school. They're like, why wouldn't we? Because we're in love. Sorry in advance.
No.
It hurts that we don't even get the answers to the question. Like it could have been, yes, I will call you when I'm at school, or no, I won't call you. And both are painful to us in hindsight, but also that's not the point. Like the painful part is that she thought.
The painful part is the question, not the answer.
Exactly. The painful part is that she was like, but will you call? Like it's that she asked because she didn't know, but she thought, she so believed.
Yeah. Cause he's like, oh, it's just a summer fling to get over Betty.
Yeah.
And then she's like, we're in love and going to get married. Yes.
Right.
And she thought she had him. Like she thought,
she thought she
whatever
did.
his answer was, she thought that they were going to be together for longer.
It's so, it hurts. It hurts me. I'm
Fuck
hurt.
you, James.
The chorus is the same. And then we get to the bridge. All right. This bridge is literally everything to me. I think this is so good, man. The emotion is so good. To scream sing in your car is unlike any other experience.
We're about to scream sing it when I go drop you off at home.
Absolutely. Back when we were still changing for the better. So she starts with reflecting on like back when we were still a work in progress, back when we were still learning things, back when we were young.
When they're young, they assume you know nothing.
Exactly. And it was back when, so I wrote that like, maybe now she feels like people change for the worse. Like when you grow up, when you're an adult, learning things feels differently. But also, it's more that like when she was younger, she had optimism that people changed for the better. But like he didn't.
Ooh, yikes.
Ow. Wanting was enough. For me, it was enough. Ow! 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 Augustine. August.
I like relating that to the prophecy and like the idea of like a greater woman wouldn't beg and like women who want things being villainized.
Yeah.
But like wanting was enough for her.
And it didn't even matter if he wanted her to. The possibility of it was enough. Ow. 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 I'm in pain. And then I just wrote, like, we accept the love we think we deserve. I will always bring up that quote because I know that it's been overused. Everyone knows it now. But, like, what a powerful sentiment. To live for the hope of it all. As Kat mentioned, one of the best lyrics ever. Canceled plans just in case you'd call and say, meet me behind the mall. So, we kind of already talked about this idea before and what it's like to be a teenage girl, but also just like the number of times that I have felt this.
Yeah.
Where like you don't want to be waiting for this person. You don't want to be that guy that's like waiting at the phone, and yet here you are being like, "Oh, my friend wants to go out, but you know, this other person."
We kind of had we talked about
maybe
possibly doing something, so I don't want to make other plans because what if we end up following through?
Yeah, so I'm just going to tell my friend no, and then you end up staying home all night and just not doing anything.
Yeah.
Rude. Or even worse, he's like, "Hey, you want to pick me up at the Valero gas station?" Never happened to me, not once.
Yeah, I don't know where you would get that random detail. He just pulled right out of there for nothing.
July 2014 is where I got that from. Anyway, why did I write meet me behind the Valero? Or perhaps Mavis Discount Tire?
Not the Mavis Discount Tire.
Oh, I hated being 17. I'm so glad I'm not 17 anymore. Okay.
Being 27 sucks, but it also kind of slaps.
We went tire shopping together and he didn't date me. You don't go tire shopping with someone unless it's real. I'm so sorry. I stand by that.
You got tired of each other.
Oh, wow. Okay. So much for summer love and saying us, because you weren't mine to lose. She says summer love, and he calls it a summer thing, and that makes me want to die.
Did you talk about the do you remember yet? Or have
I'm
we
not
gotten
there yet.
Okay.
But
so
yeah.
yeah, just like, and like that, so much for summer love and saying us, because there was never an us.
Right.
Ugh.
And like also maybe there was, you know that thing, maybe you don't know that thing, but when you're with someone and they're just like, oh yeah, you should totally meet my friends, or like maybe one day we could do this thing, like there's this hypothetical we, and you're constantly waiting for the we to happen. Shouldn't have said we that many times.
We. Happy Paris Olympics.
'Cause you weren't mine to lose. Wow. It's especially frustrating in situations like that because they weren't dating. So in a way, the pain that you feel is invalidated because you're like, you were never mine to lose, and yet I'm still heartbroken over this, and that makes you feel even shittier about yourself.
Yeah, like that's the worst thing is like when you are seeing someone, like when I was talking about my August situation, and I was like, well, we didn't really break up because we weren't like officially dating, and I hate situationships.
Yeah, and it's hard because you feel like the invalidation's already there. You feel like you don't have a right to be as upset as you are. And you do. You always have a right to be upset about things, just for the record. But it's so complicated. Yeah.
And the worst is like, I remember being in college and talking about like, oh, like when I was dating so-and-so or something. And someone was like, were you really dating? Like you were never official. And I was like, okay, well, you weren't involved in this relationship, so I can say whatever the fuck I want and you can shut up. I didn't like this person who interjected also. Side note, if it was somebody that I liked, they wouldn't have said it.
Technically, he didn't break any rules. He didn't like sleeping with someone else wasn't cheating because
they were on a break.
You weren't dating. Ugh. Blech.
Gray area.
The worst kind of gray area. Shades of grayish. So now we get into the outro, which just kind of echoes different sentiments from the song. So do you remember when I pulled up and said, get in the car?
You said, get in the car.
Get in the car. Well, I did reference getaway car. Because, like...
I was thinking more hostage situation.
Either or.
Well, because that's how James sees it. He's like, oh, like this figment of my worst intentions.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that hurts me as well. This is also giving Just Between Us did the love affair meme you too. Like, do you remember? Do you still think about this? But this brings up like new lore of like her pulling up to him, and she's like trying to be spontaneous. It shows the relationship that they had. It wasn't just her waiting around. She was like actively going, pulling up and being like, hey, let's drive around together. Let's do these things that we do together. Let's go to the beach. And of course, in Betty, James says that she's a figment of his worst intentions. So,
Like, like Augustine rolls up and she's like, hey, do you want to ride? And he's just like, well, if it isn't my personal demon. Like, are you fucking kidding me, James?
This is the worst. I hate it. Okay, but it's so heartbreaking. Like, I'm thinking about Augustine. For whatever reason in this universe, if Augustine heard that song.
Oh my, if Augustine heard James's pitch to get back together with Betty, she'd be like, actually, I have a few notes and you're not going to like a single one of them, James.
It like, actually, it makes me so mad.
Which is why I love the short film that person made where Betty and Augustine at the end are friends and shut the door in James's face together.
I love when the girls in any media, when the two women, like the girlfriend and the other girlfriend or the other woman or whatever, ultimately are just like, you know what? We both got screwed over by the same person and let's be buds.
Is it called The Other Woman that has like
probably Kate something and Cameron Diaz, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other one who's like way younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, those three, and they all get together and they destroy the guy's life. Ugh, love it.
Very fun, very fun.
Love it.
That's girl power. And I just love, for me being behind the mall, like that shows up again because that really sticks out to her where she was just like, he really did only ask to meet me in places where we weren't going to be seen. And there's that feeling of like, maybe I was stupid for ever thinking otherwise. Maybe I was stupid for thinking that he liked me back because, you know, it's just this cycling.
You should have listened to your friends about his girlfriend back in Boston.
Ugh.
Or like the illicit affairs of it all, of like what started in beautiful rooms ends with meetings in parking lots.
Yeah, exactly. I think I did write that on my notes somewhere, but I tried not to just read my notes this time. I'm doing this new thing where I like speak off the cuff. I don't know how.
I think it went well.
Thank you. And yeah, and then it just ends on her being like, for the hope of it all, which again is just, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, but it's also just so interesting that it is like overall like a positive song about this experience, and she like looks back on it fondly.
Yeah.
And I had one other thought. Oh, the illicit affairs connection and the cobblestones. I originally had it written down that like maybe James and Betty broke up at the dance, and then James was walking home because he's a broke bitch without a car and Betty was his ride. And then Augustine picks him up at like from the dance, and I'm like, maybe she was there but is like from a different school, or maybe she's a year older and she's graduating or something. And like they saw each other and she gave him a ride because he was skulking in the corner, so how was she supposed to know that he had a girlfriend? So maybe there was some overlap, but it was like Betty and James broke up because Augustine gave James a ride home. Yeah. And then Augustine didn't know about that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's August.
Sipped away like a bottle of water out of a Stanley.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Next week, tune in for part 2 where we'll do the other 2 songs. Shit talk James character, not James brother, some more. Maybe James Bond. We'll shit talk if we're feeling a little feisty. I don't know. I haven't seen a single James Bond movie. I'm going to be really honest about that. Abby hasn't seen Titanic. I haven't seen James Bond any iteration. We're just out here.
We're out here.
We're just out here living for the hope of it all.
Exactly.
Not meeting behind any malls.
No malls in sight.
I don't know if there's even a behind of our mall.
No, because it's a circle.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no behind. Anyway.
The behind of it all.
Okay. So here's where I'm going to put the name of our Swiftest tier patrons. Bethany, September, M, and Ashley.
Yay.
Who we love so dearly.
Yay. You're the best. Yay. That's a little song I just wrote for you guys. There's more songs on the Patreon that are so much better because Abby wrote them.
I have put a couple songs on the Patreon. I'm pretty proud of them.
I put a couple poems.
Yeah. Also, we're doing a hangout at the end of this month.
Yes.
That we're really excited about.
So excited for it. I feel like we should say it.
Let's say it.
we're gonna do a hot ones challenge where like we're gonna be questioning each other. It's not necessarily gonna be Taylor Swift related questions, but it will be us trying to minorly embarrass each other, and also we're gonna eat really hot spicy wings.
Yeah.
It'll be really fun.
It'll be really fun.
We'll be doing it as a live stream on the Patreon, and then we'll release part of it as like content on our YouTube channel too. It'll probably be clipped on the other social medias
at Folklore Pod on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. And
so it'll be great. So that'll be at the end of the month. We'll say more about that on the Patreon, but you can join our Patreon if you'd like to see any of that content.
Yes. And there's more information about what each tier of the Patreon gets you on Patreon or on our social medias. So you can discover it wherever you want.
Yay. And that's that.
That's all. Crispy high five?
Crispy high five.
Crisp.
The crispy high five of it all.
Look, when I was living for the of it all. That was a clap. That wasn't a high five. I'm a faker.